This is the worst case scenario.
This whole area is likely going under.
I'm exhilarated right now.
What that lady's name is, but she had 3 little kids underneath her. Good job, Teach.
His teacher's
His teacher saved his life.
Who's his teacher?
Mrs. Lowe.
I'm watching a consistent radar signature of a tornado.
We're hearing reports that there is another tornado on the ground.
It's definitely going.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
There it is.
School that morning, never imagining that it could be the last time they'd ever see them. For the lucky, ultimate, intense relief and hugs.
There will be enormous grief that has to be absorbed, but you will not travel that path alone.
It had been a couple years since I had chased, and the last time I chased, the last tornado that I was on was the Jaclyn, Missouri tornado, which was an EF5 tornado, and I walked through that damaged path. So I was left with kind of a bitter taste in my mouth, or, you know, kind of a bad memory. So while I was excited to go chasing, I always knew in the back of my mind that, you know, what these storms are capable of doing to a community and the power of Mother Nature.
Jaclyn Whittal and fellow meteorologist Mark Robinson share a passion for weather.
Yeah, this storm's actually starting to strengthen. I've seen a couple lightning bolts really close to us, so we're going to have to do this very, very quickly.
We almost got hit by lightning. It was very scary. I actually crouched over with my head. I thought for sure I was getting hit by lightning at that time.
Each spring, they visit the severe weather hotbed known as Tornado Alley. This region spans several states, from South Dakota down to central Texas. Here, warm, moist tropical air collides with cool, dry air from the north. It's where severe thunderstorms come to play. And the chase team wants in the game.
I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. I'm positioned in Oakley, Kansas right now. This is western Kansas. And we've actually pulled over on the side of the road to assess more model data just to see exactly where we should position ourselves.
When we first left, Mark and I didn't really know each other all that well, so it was kind of a get-to-know-you period that first 3-4 hours in the car.
We're actually trying to get down south of this cloud cover where the greater heating was. Hot, moist air goes up into the storm, condenses to form clouds, and slowly spins. So you can actually see there's striations around that storm. And that is actually the main side of what we call the mesocyclone. And this is one of these incredible storms because you can actually see into it.
A mesocyclone is the swirling vortex of air found in powerful thunderstorms known as supercells. It's caused by a change of wind direction and an increase in wind speed. The air rises and rotates around a tilted vertical axis. This area of rotation can range from 3 to 10 kilometers wide. A mesocyclone is one of the clues a storm chaser hopes to see.
In the beginning, we thought it was going to be a fun chase trip. The usual ones, you know, we get to see really amazing thunderstorms.
For me, this is an incredible storm. I just love this. This is amazing.
Maybe some tornadoes, it'd be great. And then it changed into something entirely different and became one of the most wrenching emotional journeys I've ever taken.
I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal, standing just outside of Granbury, where an EF4 tornado touched down in the area.
Within 3 days, we were walking through a damaged path in Granbury, Texas, which was an EF4. So right away, it was a big reality check.
What they see in Granbury is the result of the most violent storm in a 3-day outbreak. 26 tornadoes spun across 4 states. This brief but violent tornado wiped out an entire subdivision and killed 6 people.
I just want to show you what an EF4 tornado can do to one home right beside me here. This home completely leveled. You can see the foundation sort of lying there, but the rest of it's a pile of rubble.
We thought we'd come out to see what help was needed out here, and so we realized that this home had been demolished. One of the many homes had been demolished, and we just pulled in, and here we are picking up debris. Anything we can do to help.
You can see some of the wood gets shredded. It just gets peeled apart and shredded. Glass is one of the first things to go, so you can see there's just little bits and pieces of the glass left.
Meteorologists, we feel like we can learn so much by being out there in the field and watching these storms. But it happened quick, and I think it immediately made our storm chase a little bit more somber right out of the gates.
The storm hunters continue to sidestep danger. The same system that hit Granbury is still producing tornadoes. The trouble is, they're hidden.
All right, we have a fairly dangerous cell over here, right over basically to our east, where there's a tornado buried in there. We've been watching a consistent radar signature of a tornado in here, but the problem is it's a really messy situation. It's not a very isolated cell, so it's buried up in there where we can't see it. So we have to be very careful coming at this that we don't get ourselves into a bad situation.
We're just near Sunset, Texas, and we're hearing reports that there is another tornado on the ground.
Right now, we actually can't continue down the road because if we're going to have a tornado, it's going to be right in front of us. So we keep driving down the road, we're going to be right in the middle of it. So we have to be very, very careful. Lightning danger is extreme here.
It's definitely going, guys. It's definitely going.
Okay, we want to get it.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
It's on the ground. Down.
Tornado. Perfect, let's do it.
This is at least the second tornado that we've seen, and it is moving very slowly, so we can actually get up fairly close to it. We're going to continue on and get up and personal with this tornado.
We are in Oklahoma, just north of a town called Lawton, and you can see some of these cells are starting to go up. We're seeing our active radar imagery as we travel in the car here.
Storms fire up at breakneck speed. The team has to choose which one to follow. They look for tornadoes in unpopulated areas. If they're not careful, they could end up in the path of danger. Their planning pays off when they find a tornado in southern Oklahoma. But then, they learn about the monster in Moore.
I've been watching a consistent radar signature of a tornado.
We're hearing reports that there is another tornado on the ground.
I've never heard roar like that before. When we first pulled up, we got in maybe 3 or 4 hours after the tornado. We had been chasing down farther south of Oklahoma City in an area called Duncan. And it was just this absolutely eerie place to be, because you're in a functioning city, and yet here you are in the middle of this. We walked over to where the damage was, and, you know, literally just in this destruction path, hundreds of people could have been trapped right around us. That was hard. That was really hard to deal with.
Using a remote signal, Mark and Jaclyn report live from the scene. They struggle to reconcile the carnage before them and their passion for the weather that caused it.
It's very shocking to think about what is in this rubble, what's behind us. Everything just scattered about.
Right here is the heart of the tornado as it passed through. This is an extraordinarily destructive tornado, and it was just, to me, it's just a stunning thing.
And the areas had been searched, and we were told there were no more survivors.
But because it's such a chaotic situation, they didn't know for sure.
A group of Marines came over, and they heard moaning in the rubble right where we were standing.
Jack and I sort of looked at each other and said, oh my God, did we just do a bunch of news hits beside somebody who could be dying? It brought it home. It immediately said, okay, wow, this is a horrible event that's happened. You know, it's not just a meteorological event. People died here. The extraordinary amount of damage even here is absolutely stunning.
Right at that same moment, when they were digging through the rubble, the Marines found a flag that was, I think, underneath a vehicle or somewhere. It's so hard to make sense of where anything is. But they found a U.S. flag, and you could see them just sort of pull it out of the area underneath this car. And it was like they didn't speak. They just grabbed the flag, they grabbed the post, and so slowly and gracefully just, you know, raised this flag in the air before our eyes. And naturally, like all of us, we start snapping pictures. And I think that seeing that flag raised symbolized hope for the people of Moore.
The people of Moore should know that their country will remain on the ground, there for them, beside them, as long as it takes. For there are homes and schools to rebuild, businesses and hospitals to reopen, their parents to console, first responders to comfort, and of course frightened children who will need our continued love and attention.
The next day, we were by the strip mall.
This here was a plaza, a strip mall. We all know what those are like. It had the typical nail salon in it, a couple other small businesses, including a daycare.
And we saw this man walking around, and we kindly went up to him and had no idea what he was up to. And he was very emotionally distraught, as his daughter was the owner of the daycare.
This gentleman was telling us just a minute ago that this was a daycare, and his daughter runs it, and she saved the lives of, I think, 9 children in this daycare.
So he took us around, and he showed us where they all hid. If you saw the pile of rubble, you would never believe that anybody lived.
I can't even, this is unbelievable. The damage is incredible.
Entire neighborhoods are swept away, including 2 elementary schools, a hospital, an iconic movie theater, a horse farm. All are completely leveled as the tornado roared across town. It unleashed its full EF5 fury as it rolled over the daycare.
As the building collapsed on top, she stuck her head up, and she literally felt everything sort of go very white and dizzy, and she sort of said, "Oh, this is it, I'm going to die." And they all survived. Every one of them survived. So she basically rescued, something like 10 kids, including the 7-week-old baby.
9 adults and 12 children came out from under that.
You would never believe that anybody lived. So it was remarkable, and he was so proud of her, and I immediately filled up with tears because I was just so happy that they all lived, and I just can't imagine for him as a father, you know, what that meant to him. So it was remarkable, that experience.
Somebody was obviously looking out for you.
Absolutely. No doubt.
This was the 5th tornado in Moore, Oklahoma in just 15 years. The giant wedge ripped through the city for nearly 40 minutes. It carved a track 23 kilometers long and almost 12 kilometers wide. The estimated cost of damage is at least $2 billion.
We thought Moore was going to be the worst thing that we saw on this chase trip, and in many ways it was, but the absolute nightmare scenario for all chasers was yet to come.
And this is the last day, really. Tonight we're sort of head back towards the east, back towards home. It's potentially one heck of a way to end a chase trip on a high-risk day.
Last day, and we were exhausted by this point because we'd been doing 16-hour days every day, every day. We never took a break.
Sometimes people will chase, their whole lives and never see damage like Moore or witness an EF5 or, Once we saw Moore, we didn't think that we could see anything worse than that.
Extremely violent tornadoes are rare. They account for less than 1% of all reported tornadoes in the United States. Nevertheless, severe thunderstorm warnings from the National Weather Service puts everyone on high alert.
I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal for the Weather Network, along with storm hunter meteorologist Mark Robinson. We are on a cell just west of El Reno, Oklahoma.
The morning of the El Reno tornado was one of the tensest I've ever had.
Today comes with a bit of a attachment, and that is that these storms are likely to fire around Oklahoma City. We hope that these storms do stay isolated and not in populated areas, but I think that there's this little voice in the back of our minds that is saying, geez, I hope this does not end bad today.
The ingredients that day that the Storm Prediction Center was discussing was off the charts.
There are what we call tornado vortex signatures coming up on our radar. We're seeing quite a bit of rotation on radar. We're seeing velocity couplets. So all the things that would say that a tornado will be on the ground.
And we were waiting and waiting and waiting.
The National Weather Service has put out a tornado warning indicating that people should be underground.
1 mile north of the El Reno Airport.
There's a tornado on the ground. We just heard just 1 mile north of the El Reno Airport.
George Karunas, host of Angry Planet, radios us and says there's a very large tornado on the ground.
Auto Club, large rain wrap tornado just south of Interstate 40.
Large tornado on the ground, somewhere in that mess of rain.
We saw this rain-wrapped tornado. We knew there was a tornado in there, and then all of a sudden it moved very fast, pushing southeast.
For now, I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal for the Weather Network.
I heard the wind like I've never heard the wind before.
Our entire chase lasted, to get to our target area was about 45 minutes.
We're just going to stay right here and watch, continue to report, and get as much information back to the National Weather Service as possible, because this is a very dangerous situation occurring here in El Reno, Oklahoma.
It just crossed right in front of us. Power flashes. Big. Holy smokes.
It was such a massive tornado.
The National Weather Service has put out a tornado warning, encouraging people to take shelter right now. If they do have the ability to get underground, that is where they want to be. The other big part of the danger is take a look at the amount of chasers. Mark, if you could just get that shot. Take a look at the amount of chasers that are on the roads today.
We saw this rain-wrapped tornado. We knew there was a tornado in there.
Mark and Jaclyn watch from the inflow region of the storm. Here, winds rush past them to feed the energy of the mesocyclone. What they think they see is a wide band of rain hiding a tornado. In reality, the entire thing is the tornado. It's a mammoth storm spreading across 4.5 kilometers.
We had no idea the biggest tornado was going to be produced. And we were going down the road literally screaming at people to get out of the way. This thing was bad and it was going to kill people.
So now we had to stop. As you're getting away, you actually have to stop. That was the moment that I felt like anything could happen at that moment.
It literally was my nightmare scenario. A gigantic wedge tornado coming at us with a traffic jam to the south and no way to get out of its path.
That tornado moved onto the I-40 and then ultimately dissipated. But I will never assume anything. Nobody anticipated that the El Reno tornado would do what it did. So I'm not the same chaser that I once was.
In the rain, I see a really faded grayish cone, and all I see is really rapid motion around it. So it was right there.
Yeah.
It pretty much crossed the road where we were first watching.
We saw some tour groups flipping U-turns while locals are trying to flee, and you feel horrible for the locals because they don't know what they're looking at. They're terrified. It was just a bad situation.
That was the biggest problem, is that people were just out there going, oh, it's so pretty, I can look at it, it isn't dangerous. And this year, El Reno reminded us of what these things can do.
I caught a glimpse of it, and there was one point where I'm filming and the lightning flashed, and it was huge.
The El Reno tornado spread 4.5 kilometers. Wind speeds of at least 475 kilometers an hour are recorded near ground level. Tornado ratings are determined by level of damage caused to structures. Since this was mostly open terrain, there was relatively little damage to inspect compared to Moore. The tornado only earned an official EF3 rating, despite its extreme intensity. But the El Reno tornado will always be remembered for another reason. It was the first time storm chasers died in the path of a tornado. The twister took a surprise turn and killed 3 highly experienced severe storm researchers. The deaths of Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and Carl Young shook the chase community.
When Mark and I left on our storm chasing trip, we had no idea that we were going to witness the widest, largest recorded tornado in U.S. history.
The trip back, we were just like, we were happy to go home this year because it had been such a devastating year in terms of emotions, to physical destruction, everything.